Introduction to this story. My husband grew up and worked on a ranch his family owns in Caracuaro, Michoacán, until he was 17. His ranch is over 400 acres and it isn't developed industrially in any way. Pretty much mountains and streams for miles. No electricity, no running water, nothing. The paranormal stories that he tells are pretty frightening. With all the paranormal activity he's experienced in his life, he's surprisingly very calm and not afraid of much. My husband is always reluctant to tell his stories about his life from the ranch in Mexico, but tonight I finally got my husband to tell me an encounter. I fixed him his favorite pico de gallo con tajín, and I'm now typing his words verbatim as he munches away. He's very verbose, just skim through it if it gets boring. To us all it is very interesting and unexplainable. Here it is. One afternoon I was playing outside in the mountains with my cousin Juan, and my dad arrived to our ranch on horse and approached us and said, "Tonight is the night you two will become men." I was 12 years old and my cousin was too. We stopped playing, and I said to my dad, "What? We're already men. We already hunt." He gets off his horse and goes inside the house. The house is up in the mountains. There are all kinds of rocks and cliffs where we lived. It was late in the day because I remember the goats were already back from the hills. My dad comes out of the adobe house with 2 rifles and a shotgun and responds to my question with, "Tonight, I'm going to teach you the next step to being a true hunter." He gives me a 15 semi-automatic rifle and gives the other to my cousin, and we set off. We didn't take any horses this time because this was a different style of hunting. As we walked down little paths in the grass, my cousin and I goofed around walking behind my dad, pulling leaves and grabbing sticks. My dad picked a little leaf and put it to his lips and started to whistle music through it, like a harmonica. We walked for 2 or 3 hours. We crossed one mountain to get to another mountain called Santa Teresa, one of the biggest mountains in my area. My grandmother told stories that the Indians buried their gold in that mountain to hide it from the Spaniards. I asked my dad, "Why this mountain to go hunting?" He said, "Soon you will find out why." I didn't know then that this was the mountain that the big male deer lived, and they only come out at night. For a hunter to kill the biggest deer, it meant a lot. We eventually arrived at the place my dad was going to leave me to hunt deer by myself. My dad said, "You see that tree over there? That's where you will stay and wait." It was a 30-foot tree that had a lot of flowers. Escobetillo it was called. The flowers look just like a brush, and the deer love it, and they only come out to eat it at night. This is why we were there so late in the evening. He told me I was going to stay there the whole night by myself. He said the deer start to come by 12 to 2 in the morning, and that is the period of time I needed to be alert and focused to shoot. He positioned me in the valley of the mountain, where there are only rocks, and made sure I was downwind so the animals couldn't smell me. As I was exploring the place, my dad explained to us what to listen for to know a deer was near. If a deer is scared of you, he will blow like a horse, and that means you moved and he heard you. He also said that when they smell you, they will kick on the ground with their feet and then run. He told me that I could not move at all between those hours when the deer came out. He told me you are looking for a pair of eyes, blue. Males had blue eye reflections. And then you shine your flashlight at it to stun him, then you shoot it. My dad left me there and went on with my cousin to find a spot farther away for him as well, and then would go on to find his own spot without telling me how far it was. I believe 3 hours after my dad left me, it began to get really cloudy and windy. An hour after this, the wind calmed down completely. I told myself I really needed to stay still now and not move so that the deer could not hear me. I sat so still my butt went numb, and I couldn't feel my legs anymore. How am I supposed to shoot, I thought. After a while, I started to hear the noise of a deer's footsteps, maybe 100 yards away. Ch, 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 ch. And then it stopped. When I heard the noise again, I got my rifle and my flashlight ready when I saw the eyes. I was getting desperate now to move because I was going so numb. All of a sudden, the deer made a loud noise and took off. I was so upset. I knew my chance of catching any game was over. So I got up, stretched my legs, and sat back down again. I still stayed there, hopeful that maybe some other animals would show up. The night was so quiet, though. I could only hear insects, crickets, and crawlers. Maybe a minute or so after the deer left, I sat back down again, but then I heard and felt this very, very loud sound, and suddenly, boom! The vibration lifted me at least a foot off the ground. I thought a big limb had fallen from the tree I was sitting under right beside me and had almost smashed me to death. Now remember, I'm in complete darkness and can't see anything. I imagined it must be a huge, massive limb that crashed down from the tree because the sound was so loud. I turned my flashlight on to see how big this limb was. It was a special hunting flashlight that you put on your head, and it had a big battery attached to my waist and shined a huge light around. I desperately looked around and I saw nothing. I frantically circled the tree and looked down the hill for a branch, limb, anything. I saw nothing. I started questioning what had made the noise. I saw far in the distance a light moving. It was my cousin. I whistled to him and he whistled back. It was a way to see how far away we were from one another. I could barely hear him. He was pretty far away. We continued to whistle to each other as we got closer and closer to each other. I stayed in one place and did not turn off my flashlight. It took him 30 minutes to get to where I was. I asked him, "Did you hear that loud noise?" Noise echoes through the mountains like nothing. He said, "No, I didn't hear anything." I said to him, "You mean to tell me you didn't hear that loud boom?" He looked at me like I was loco. We traveled back to my cousin's spot to meet my dad. There was no way I was going to stay there any longer by myself. My dad arrived early in the morning. The sun hadn't yet cracked through the horizon. I asked my dad in desperation as soon as he arrived, "Did you hear the big loud noise like a tree that fell? It sounded like it fell right next to me, and so hard that it lifted me off the ground." My dad just turned sharply to look at me. "Huh, that is strange." And that was all he said. We went home from there. I was so shook up. Later in the morning, my grandfather, rocking in his hammock as I walked by him, asked me, "I heard your dad took you hunting last night. How was it? Did you have fun? Where did you go?" "I went to the mountain Santa Teresa." "Where did he put you? Which side of the mountain did you hunt?" "He put me by the escobatillo tree in the valley on the back side of the mountain." "What?" He put his foot down on the ground and sat up from his hammock. He looked surprised. "That is the agua del espanto," water of terror. He looked upset and asked, "Why did your father put you there?" "Why are you asking me this? What does that mean?" I asked. "I hunted there before, and have experienced things that are not natural there." He stopped himself short then. No one has ever been able to explain to me what happened there. Hi there. Sorry to my subscribers for the late video. It's my hope this week to get a video added on Friday and Saturday per the schedule I set previously, but being that it's summer, a lot of things have come up, pulling me away for the weekend and various outings. If you have a story that you would like featured on this channel, whether it's a true account of an experience you or someone you know has had, or if it's a fiction piece that you've written, please send it to readingrubyt@gmail.com and I'll list that in the description for you below. If you're interested in Let's Plays and video game live streams, check out VexTech Labs. Visit the links below in the description and give them a subscribe. I'll collaborate with them on a weekly basis to provide some really high quality content, and we'd love to have you. Thanks so much for listening. Leave a like, subscribe if you haven't, and stay safe out there.